We are live.
Okay, we're going to call to order the October 8th, 2020 meeting of the City of Elyria Charter Review Commission. I will take a roll. Marty Rowe. Kate Smith.
Present.
Terry Schilling, present. Phil Mercado.
Present.
Sharon Falcon.
Present.
Okay, all people are present. First order of business would be the approval of the minutes of the meeting of September 10th, 2020. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? Is there any corrections or changes? Does everybody have their mic on at certain times? Okay, is there no changes? Then if that's the case, I will entertain a motion to have them approved as submitted.
So moved.
All right, Kate Smith moved. Any second?
Second.
Sharon did. All right, any discussion? All in favor of approval of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. All right, the next order of business is to welcome Marty Rowe. He is our new Charter Review Commission, which now brings us up to 5, so we're at full force. Welcome, Marty. All right, the first order of business, we have 2 proposed changes that have been submitted. Actually, one is to change a couple of charter provisions. What is it, a total of 4 from you, Mr. Bruning?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And I think basically what we're going to do is we have them, and then we'll ask Mr. Bruning if he has anything he wants to say about them. And if not, then we'll just allow them to be submitted, because it's, I think any real discussion about how we're going to handle these will come up when we do our final meeting, which is scheduled in December. Unless anybody has any questions, you go ahead and ask any question that you have of Mr. Bruning. You have anything you want to add, Mr. Bruning?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I tried to lay it out in a way that everyone could easily see what specifically I was suggesting be changed. So hopefully it was clear, and again, as the chair indicated, I'll entertain any questions on that, but I hope it's fairly self-explanatory.
The only question I would have is just so we understand, my understanding is 3.09 is designed to clarify when a resignation is effective of a council member.
3.12 is regarding vacancies in council, Mr. Chair. 3.09.
Okay.
The 3.09 changes were driven primarily because of the pandemic and, you know, virtual meetings and things of that nature.
Well, that's right. That is to allow clarification of executive meetings of council and of not committee meetings, but council meetings, right?
Any public meeting.
Any public meeting relating to council, that the charter would allow them to clarify the law for executive session. Okay.
For executive session at any meeting, I wanted to make it very clear, because there was confusion at the beginning of the pandemic as to whether we could even meet virtually.
Yeah, and that's part of what generated that. And then 3.12 clarifies when how you resign and when it becomes effective. And 4.13 deals with a conflict between 2 provisions and a time frame.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So I do have a question.
All right.
As it relates to 3.09, and I understand the intention when it was written. It's possible that there could be a local emergency and not be a state emergency. So is your intention to not allow it if it's a local emergency? And I'm thinking weather more than anything. So there could be a Lorraine County emergency. Would you like to include that, or is it more around a discussion as to whether we should allow for that?
I wrote this as a suggestion, and I am more than happy to entertain any additional thoughts on that. That's a very good thought, in my opinion, that we might want to consider adding.
Yeah, I think just if we could word it such that it it is something that is impacting an area, region, county, that would preclude people from being able to get out and come in person, I think maybe if we could just wordsmith it a little bit.
Okay. I appreciate that suggestion. Thank you. And I'll try and work on some language that would
Yeah.
reflect it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a follow-up question
All right.
to Sharon's, and that is also regarding the state or national declared emergency. By using the term declared, is the intent to be the legal definition where there has to be a procedurally declared emergency, or do you think that the way as written it is perhaps too strict if in the case we end up recommending the language to include the term local? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's going to take some additional drafting, finagling of the words to try and come up with, to reflect that intent. Because the way I had drafted it, I did have in mind, a declared state or national emergency. We want the ability to do this, but we don't necessarily want to abuse the ability to do this. So my intent when I wrote it, which does not have to be the intent of either this committee or council or the people when we take it to them eventually, if that's the will of the public bodies, is to, allow for these things to happen on a basis that it's clearly needed, but not to make it the norm by any stretch.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, are you then, Mr. Bruning, going to submit a little clarification or revision, or?
I will work on, for the next meeting, an adaptation to include some kind of level of local intent or maybe some additional flexibility. Until I really dig into it, I don't know how artful that will be, and it may be a work in progress. Luckily, we have a couple of meetings left.
Well, you know what also it could be, a little change there, but it could also be like minutes of legislative sessions, congressional sessions that sometimes you go to interpret what a law was intended to cover, and that may be part of something that could go in our report that would be helpful if this question ever came up. But I think the local would be, something, because that can happen because of the weather as much as anything. But there may be some other reasons too. Or we're on, limited capacity. I don't know if we've ever had a situation where we haven't had a council meeting because of the weather. But I think those are really good suggestions to try to clarify the whole thing, since we're going to have to go there. I think what you've put in there is, we need because of what's going on currently. It's very timely. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, well, we will submit what you have given us for purposes of further review, pending your clarification and any notes that you want us to look at as part of what you submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, the next item is from an individual, his name David McGuire, and if you read, it's 2 pages. Now, Mr. McGuire actually handed this to me this morning, and I told him I would submit it. When it gets down to the nitty-gritty, he thinks we should eliminate at-large council. As you know, we have 7 council members, 4 at-large and 7 ward. He feels that the 4 at-large are excessive and that we should eliminate him. So his proposal is to amend the charter to eliminate the at-large, is what it boils down to. So my thought is, he submitted it. We can deal with it in our report and see what council wants to do with it, because, they're the ultimate ones that make the determination what goes to the voters. We do not. So if you have any thoughts or comments, let's go ahead and put them out there. Does anybody have anything? Now, that's something if, because it just came in today, if at the next meeting you want to make some comments on it, we certainly can do that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
While I understand his argument of the 4 appearing to be a redundancy, at first look at this, and of course I'll go into it deeper, but I know one of the purposes of at-large is to be sure that all residents are represented should there be an annex or a change in the geographic boundaries of the wards or the city itself during any given time period. And so that should be given consideration.
Well, I tend to agree with you because you're right. Now, although by city, I think if you annex an area, until there is a total revision, that ward councilman is your ward council person. Because you're added to the city, you're added to a specific ward. But I
can confirm that, Mr. Chairman. The ordinance accepting annexations always specifically states what ward it is being added to upon annexation.
Thank you.
But there could be an easier way for somebody to know who their representative is through the at-large, to be truthful with you, Ms. Smith. Any other comments? All right, we will go ahead and submit for further review and report the comments of Mr. McGuire, specifically on the basis that his whole premise is to eliminate the 4 at-large council positions, City of Elyria. Okay, that's all we have, new business. And the next is old business. It says review of charter. Anything specific you're thinking about there, Mr. Bruning, or does anybody have any questions about the charter that they want to discuss at this time?
Well, Mr. Chair, I just had thought that maybe we want to keep that on as a standing item for these meetings in case anything comes up, especially with the new committee member having come in case he had any questions. He has indicated to me that he's pretty well caught up on most of this stuff, but I don't want to speak for him. If he has anything, or if anyone else wants to chime in, I think that would be appropriate.
Anybody have any comments they want to bring up at this time? The next meeting, sir, did you want to address us tonight? All right. The next meeting is November 12th at 5 o'clock, and hopefully that'll be for anybody from the public and anybody else that wants to come forward and present any proposed amendments. Other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Have a good month, everyone.